Dear all, welcome to FERA General Assembly 2020. In a year when we celebrate 40th anniversary of our organization. My name is Klemen Dvornik and I'm a film and television director from Slovenia, and I'm also the chair of FERA's board. Our Federation of European Screen Directors is a network of 48 organizations as members of 35 countries, representing film and television directors at the European level. This year's General Assembly will take place in a virtual environment through 3 sessions that will take place today and next 2 Tuesdays. First 2 events will be panel discussions and the last one will be formal statutory one. Here to open our first session titled What Makes European Filmmakers in 2020 is film director and acclaimed actress, former president of FERA, Ullmann.
What is FERA? The only federation of European film directors founded in 1980, speaking for more than 20,000 professionals. We are storytellers. Kieślowski said about his work, "It is difficult to live in an undescribed world." Fellini went further. He wrote about being old, but he said that the sorrow of this, as well as fear and guilt, all the darkness, changed for him to a source for his work, a good source. Quote, "Thank you, God, that I can experience this as a creative person. I think I came to the earth just to describe this for other people." How lucky we are, we members of FERA, we directors of Europe, that we in more than 40 years can meet and listen to and reflect on the past and explore what filmmaking means. Reflect today on our own individual vision, even beyond this virus crisis. I'm often asked if making movies is a luxury in a world like ours, with so much violence and hunger and innocent victims. And my answer is always no. We know that the images of the movies, the live pictures from the most gifted directors, creators, will fill people with the truth and recognition of who we are and why we are. Rilke said, "Go within and seal the depths of your being, from which your life springs forth." Thus, we as storytellers, we must also have great goals, so that our profession never will be poorer and flat and empty, without position. We must never forget that this work is one of privilege. What an enormous possibility has been given us. Fellini said, "From the day I started my life as a film director, it has for me been the same as making one only film. Time has stood still. I feel as if this has been only once and the same day, all the time." You know that we are the descendants of the ancient storytellers who illustrated their tales with rock paintings in caves, the need, the urge to convey something worthwhile about being a human being. To be a storyteller, finding one's way into our fantasy, helping us to see, and not only ourselves. See ourselves as part of this earth, of the whole universe. See man's inhumanity to man, man's love for man. The films that changed us, the words, the images, and those directors that created them. Once in Russia, many years ago, Tarkovsky took me to their film archive in Moscow, and I sat behind him, behind Tarkovsky, and he turned and smiled to me, and when the light dimmed and the wonder of an old film he wanted to show me appeared on the screen, I was brought into the magic of him and an old movie that he loved. I had this master, Tarkovsky, in front of me who wanted to share what he could not say. And the position of his neck and his shoulders made it clear that he is watching hard and hungrily, locked in a visual communicating time with a moving picture before him. This was my only talk with Tarkovsky. But what a talk. And today, I want to thank FERA as the speaker for us, film workers, in front of national and executive authorities like EU and United States, demonstrating the place of culture in our social community, stating our professional rights and our economical rights, and our importance in political and social questions. FERA can and will help, assistance and asylum for the children in Greece's Moria camp, support the opposition in Belarus, free imprisoned opposition filmmakers in Russia and Iran. FERA, working for the free cultural film industry, not only as an economic motivated entertainment industry, but also for the dignity of the vulnerable. Give the minorities the right of speech and right of equal position. Rilke wrote, "Perhaps everything terrible is in its deepest being something helpless that wants help from us." My memory, like 40 years ago, in a desert of Somalia, refugees, a little boy, 5 years old, he suddenly took my finger, came there close to me, holding on to my fingers, and we walked a little while, and then he let go of my fingers and he continued slowly away from me, and he was so thin and his behind was wrinkly like an old man, and I knew that this little one would soon lie down in the desert sand and die. He has always been with me, and that's my story. Nothing that I've ever done has not been part of the impression he gave to me. We are not witnesses only. We are participants. We filmmakers, storytellers, can make it possible in our often cold and technical and digital world of statistics and quota to be touched, to recognize. There are no the others in our world. On the stone of memory in Hiroshima, there is an inscription. We know 100 times more than we need to know. What we lack is the ability to be moved from what we see. Listen, understand, hear, and believe, and share. And that's what FERA is about. Thank you.
So now I will open the floor to our panel, and I welcome them all. I invite our next speaker, my colleague, board member, British film and television director Bill Anderson, for his opening keynote. Bill?
Thank you very much, Klemen. It falls on me to welcome and introduce our 4 panelists today. I'm sure everyone has looked them up on IMDb and found them to be illustrious, prolific, award-winning, multi-talented. But as way of introduction, I asked each of them to pick a few films that they were proud of and asked them in a very few words to say why they were proud of them. And so in no particular order, Teona Strugar Mitevska from Macedonia chose these films. She chose God Exists, her name is Petrunia. She said, because it makes me become bankable, the opposite of unbankable, the most horrid and unjust depiction a director could be labeled as. When the Day Had No Name, because of it, I almost ended up in jail. Therefore, I must have done something right with it to provoke such rage. And I Am from Tito Veles, because it is a film of pure beauty, imperfect and flawed, yet so necessary. Renaud Bertrand of France chose these 3 films. Sa raison d'être was the first miniseries about AIDS in France. I'm proud the project found an audience despite the topic was not exactly what people wanted to hear about. And it described a reality quite unknown for most people at the time. Presque comme les autres is quite the same idea about autism. And The Hookup Plan was the outsider Netflix series in France, and it happened to be the most successful one because it's authentic, simply human. Isabel Coixet of Spain chose a few films, Things I Never Told You, My Life Without Me, The Secret Life of Words, The Bookshop, and her HBO series, Foodie Love. And of all these projects, she said, I'm proud I fought to write and direct and produce these projects exactly like I want them. I'm proud I didn't listen to people saying there was no audience for these stories. I guess I'm proud to be really stubborn. James Hawes from the UK picked out The Challenger Disaster because with a tiny budget, it was a hugely ambitious story and film, an untold story, And he managed to land a massive cast, William Hurt, Bruce Greenwood, Brian Dennehy, etc., for an American story all filmed in Johannesburg, South Africa. Black Mirror, Hated in the Nation was from a hit show, but it was the first feature-length Black Mirror. And he was very proud of having to manage the tone of a heightened thriller, both in performances and complex CGI, and making something science fiction that was noir-esque. And finally, the Doctor Who Christmas special, a UK institution which James launched David Tennant as the new Doctor Who, and it was a hugely popular success, massive audience satisfaction on Christmas Day. And he had to persuade the Queen to allow him to film on the roof of the Tower of London. And on that regal note, I would like to pass you over to my co-moderator, Birgitte Stærmose.
Thank you, Bill. I just want to say a little quickly about how the shape of this is going to be. And a wish that I have that it's also going to have as an informal quality as it can with this dead awful format. So I just want to say before I give the word to the panelists, I just want to say 2 words about why we in FERA decided to do this panel. We've had a lot of discussions, I think, both in our individual guilds and also in the board of FERA, about sort of the invisibility of the essence of our work. You know, what Liv talked about very beautifully is something that, you know, we're not very good at talking about normally, and we feel that it can be ignored. And I think in the last half year, we were reminded when we started to talk about the pressures that COVID could bring to us, that we thought immediately our space could get diminished further. So we decided to attempt to speak of the unspeakable. So what we've decided to do with this panelist, the panelists are going to talk twice. And then after that, we'll have hopefully about half an hour for questions from Bill and I, and also from everybody attending. So the first thing that I've asked the panelists to prepare is to, because I wanted to get them to speak a bit about this mysterious space, which is the creative space of the director. And, you know, we have on purpose picked 4, as you can see, very different directors from different regions of Europe with very different experiences, because we of course don't believe that the director is one thing. You know, it's a very personal thing, how you work. So I thought, how do we sort of introduce some concepts about this creative space without putting people in a box that they don't belong into? So I've asked all 4 panelists to come up with 3 words that describe their creative space, and talk a little bit about each word and why they picked that word. So I would like, if it's okay with you, Isabel, to go first with your words, and you have to make sure you unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. There are 3 words which are really, really important for me. One is calm, another one is freedom, and another one is intimacy. Calm. I think the paradox of our work is we create in terms of, I'm a writer-director, so sometimes when I talk about making films, I talk about write and direct. But I think you are feed by the turmoil of life. You need, I need chaos in order to create. But in the moment I have to make my vision in a film, in a set, I really need some calm, and I really need to know or to feel or know/feel who I am in relationship, what I want to say, what I want to shoot, what I'm going to film. But is, you know, in a way, this calm is very important for me. Like, I talk about, okay, when I say calm, I say about precision. I talk about also a very strange serenity, who I'm able to obtain when, you know, when you have like 60 people around you trying to, you know, to light, to move sets, to make up and shit. This space who belongs to you is, okay, all these people are here to work with me in this thing, but I need to be serene. I cannot, you know, I always say to the people in film schools, you have to come to the set when, you know, you let your tears outside and your anxieties and your, you know, your alcohol intake and your, you know, your anxieties. Intimacy, that's my landscape. I work with intimacy. For me, I'm you know, more happy than when I am with one actor or two actors in a room and there's nobody there, and I'm carrying the camera and you know, I let them, you know, some kind of freedom. I will talk a little bit about freedom later, and you know, there are problems and little things and they move and I follow them. That for me is how I'm happier. And freedom is, you know, I guess freedom is probably one of the, freedom like democracy are the concepts more, you know, you can say, you know, very contradictory things. But for me, freedom is in my head. You know, freedom is no matter how the budget is, no matter what the, you know, some sales agent is saying, no matter what the platform, what, you know, in case you work for TV, no matter what they say, you know, I have to know this is my choice. This is the only freedom I have, and know how to use it. And more or less, that's what I think about my work. Because, you know, Leaf said all the things we know and we worship, and that's why we're making films. So, you know, I guess I'm trying to be very specific.
I'm unmuting myself. Thank you so much, Isabel. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave them uncommented and give the word to James.
Okay, well, the first three words I came up with, Birgitte didn't like, because I wanted to say chocolate, Rioja, and weekends. But apparently that wasn't serious enough. So I've had a rethink, and actually, you know, in a different way, I'm going to say very similar things to Isabel. Everything you say chimes utterly with me. You find me now sat in a production office. I've just spent all these hours next door, and I was aware I was coming into this meeting, and it felt very live to be remembering these words. And the first one I want to use is trust. I need trust. I can't take a project unless I trust the script. I can't take a project unless I have made an assessment really of the creative environment. Is this production company going to give me the wherewithal? And that's not necessarily about money and resources, but are they going to give me the support and the oxygen to make the film I believe it should be, or the episode I believe it should be? Can I trust their intent? And if that sounds cynical and suspicious, perhaps that's because directors are the damaged beings we've become, and you get to a certain point and you need to know you're traveling with a team. I also want trust in the eventual destination. Will this studio or this streamer market this program and film? Will it get seen? When I donate a little piece of my life and passion into this project, have they got the wherewithal and the enthusiasm to make sure my story finds an audience? And I need to trust that. But I also need trust coming the other way. I need trust put in me and to be allowed, I guess it's what you're saying, the freedom to go and make some of my decisions. Isabel, I'm looking at notes. I feel embarrassed that you spoke so fluently, but I have some cues here. I've had recent experiences with US networks where they micromanage, where I don't think it's personal to me, I think it's systemic. And you find yourselves very quickly making your next decision with your creatives. It's very difficult to avoid double guessing what the next answer would be. So you need to get to a place as far as is possible where trust is put in you and they let you go away to make your decisions and to make your mistakes along the way. So trust is a huge thing. Sellotape time. This is my phrase, and I know it's technically 2 words, so I'm breaking the rules again, but once upon a time we edited on film and you made your choice about where the cut was going to be, and there was that magical moment when the editor turned to the splicing machine and the audio was pulled out of the Steenbeck, and in that moment the director could turn away and you could think about the consequence of the cut you just made. You could think about what was coming next. And I don't want to sound old-fashioned like a Luddite, but the digital world demands everything to happen now. And I think a director for your space, you have to create sellotape time. And I mean it during pre-production, and I mean it on set. The nature of the speed, especially on high-end TV productions these days, is that you're expected to make a decision and stick to that decision. And if you don't, then there are consequences, and how do we turn this around? On set, you very rarely have time to think between scenes. The pressure is, okay, we finished that scene, we call that shot. Here are the actors already waiting for the next scene. They're brought on and you don't have time even to reposition your head. So however prepared you are, you need to create the thinking time. Isabel, I think again, you touched on this. I had one occasion where a producer said to me, what are you doing? If you take 5 minutes between each scene and we shoot 7 scenes a day, that's 45 minutes we wasted. And we had quite a discussion about my belief that that wasn't wasted time. That was me making sure that the actors were going to be poised, that I was going to get my notes right, that the edit would flow smoothly, and frankly, they'd have a better show at the end. So I now work to carve out sellotape time, even if I have to fight for it and argue for it on a given day. And then the third thing is a bit of a contradiction to all this, it's friction. And I sat in this room next door in the middle of this production, realized I need people to argue with me. I mean, it may come in many forms, but friction is a way to light a fire. Sometimes it can be about the choice of project. A couple of you talked about films you were proud of because there were things you felt important to tell or that made you angry. Anger is a great place to start to tell a story, to create fiction. If it's a story you feel where somebody's being wronged, this is a confession, guys. I find anger sometimes with the line producer, when the budget is cut. I find anger sometimes when my schedule is reduced. Finding that friction, finding a battle, finding my antagonist within either the script or the production environment to kick my ass and fuel me, to give me some sort of additional energy and need to tell the story. And of course, there's a positive friction. There's that friction you come when you've been given freedom to choose the very best people to work alongside you. Whether it's the writer, I've just been sitting in a room with a DP, a designer, producer, first assistant, and they challenge you. They ask you questions. Do you know the answers yet? That friction gives you a whole new idea. I can sit at home for as long as I like trying to be brilliant. It's nothing to what happens when you're under the cosh, in the moment, having to answer the questions right there and then. So I think those are my 3: challenge, confront, create, friction, sellotape, time, trust. There you go.
Thank you so much, James. That's
Okay.
great. Yeah, thank you. So the next person that I would like to give the word to is Renaud Bertrand, please.
Thank you very much for asking me to talk. Well, which is not the thing I love the most in my job, but whatever. And when Birgitte asked me to talk about this word, really, my idea was to talk more about the personal way I would make and create my creative area. So my 3 words are desire, genuine, and trust. And the paradox is that two of these words are kind of, for me, talking about irrational ideas, because the desire is irrational. So do I want, and for me, the desire is the most important thing for me to be involved, the most important reason to be involved in a project. So do I want to be involved, like you said, for so many years, so many times, so many months in a project for irrational reasons? And the answer is yes, and that's kind of what fascinates me in this world and in this job. And so, yes, and the first question I have to ask me to when I come into and I jump into a project is, do I really have this desire for telling this story and this irrational pulsion to do it? And is this desire will stay all along the story? And it's the same thing at every level of the choices I have to do in my work. You know, the desire is the really most important engine for me to go along a project. And because without desire I don't see images, and with desire I see images, I see colors, I hear voices, I see movements, I see flow, I see bodies, and I see a movie, you know. So yeah, and desire is also some kind of a belief that something bigger than myself, my thinking, my fears, my doubt is going to be stronger and will make me able to go to the end of what I want to do, because I am very vulnerable, and I'm gonna have many obstacles when I do a movie. Like you said, we have producers, we have networks, we have all that, but my desire at the end will be the strongest thing that will take me to the end of the project, you know. So yes. And what I like also in desire is that it is very mysterious, and this mystery, you know, keeps me awake and keeps me focused. The second word is genuine. Because we have so many, yes, like everybody says, we have a very new situation with our job, and we have like many people now involved in our choices. We were not as free as we were when I was assistant. I've seen, yes, I've been living this time where directors was kind of have more power, but right now we have all this situation that makes our job very different. So we have to compromise, and yes, the fact that I want to stay genuine is some kind of one of the most important goals in the way I can see my future. Am I genuine with myself? Am I genuine when I choose a project? Am I genuine with my intention? What's my purpose? Do I want to produce a sensation? For what reason? Am I faithful to my vision, to my purpose? Am I doing a fantasy choice? How can I make a project special? Is my vision make this project strong, good? Every day's choice is a yeah. So if I'm not genuine, you know, I have no chance that what I'm doing is going to be special, is going to be particular, and my vision is going to be somewhere in a movie. So yes, being genuine is the only way for me to be focused on my vision, and the only chance to give something special to a project. And am I genuine with others too? That's a question, you know. That's also a question I have to ask myself every day when I'm working. the third word is exactly the same as you said, James, is trust, you know. And for me, trust is not something rational, is not something reasonable. For me, trust is like, we've got so many obstacles when you direct something, when we write, when you have to convince people about the project, that for me, trust is this kind of irrational force that makes me able to go to my goal, you know, and it protects me from having conflict with myself. And trust doesn't produce solutions, but trust works for me, you know. Because when I'm in a conflict, when I am in a situation where I'm doubt with what I'm doing, trust is, I know there's something, a solution. There must be something very tiny little space where I can go on, and because I had the experience of that, you know, and trust is something that keeps me in hope, in a situation of hope. So these three words, in fact, give me the opportunity to have freedom and to be myself, and to be able to be the best versions of myself when what I'm producing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renaud. And lastly, Teona, it's your turn.
For me, the three words are tenacity, chutzpah, which is audacity, and a girl. Tenacity. Well, when I started making films like 18, 19 years ago, I found myself in a situation where this creative space was not so available to a person like myself, a girl, a woman. So I very quickly learned that I must find alternative ways and to reach my goal, or to create a space where my voice can be heard. And well, that was, I decided to basically knock on every door. And hoping that after 100 and maybe 100 closed doors, one door will open and somebody will give me a hand, no? So I'm sorry, I'm also looking at my notes. So I guess this tenacity, it is also about persistence and also about being stubborn, something Isabel talked about, stubbornness. So I am very stubborn because of the conditions and the place where I make my films in. I've been known to, go with my head straight against the wall until the wall disappears. And maybe this makes me a fool. I'm very well aware of this, but it is the only way I can react to injustices that I feel. Second word, chutzpah, audacity. You might not agree with something somebody says or does or how they do it, but you might admire their audacity, their chutzpah. As I said, injustice, it is the base, the core of every story I tell, every film I make. And I just simply cannot do otherwise. It is this need to react and to express myself, it's stronger than something I can control. But having this métier, being a film director, being a storyteller, having the platform of being heard and making films brings with itself a big amount of responsibility. And well, for this responsibility lies in the influence we might have with the stories we tell and the points we are trying to make. And for this, I guess one needs sacrifice, courage, and audacity. And for me, being a filmmaker, it is like being an activist. And today, more than ever before. Third word, girl. I don't like this word. I don't like it the way it's used. Especially in French society, I cannot handle when people call a mature woman like myself, fille, girl. But I'm not talking about this girl. I'm talking about girl as a child. I was not a tomboy as a child. I was actually girly girl. I think I'm more a tomboy today than I ever was then. Anyway, my point is there is such a beauty and such a freedom in, in the play of the children, in the space of the children. I love this freedom and this creativity. I love thinking out of the box. I love dreaming of the impossible. And well, it is, I love Peter Pan. And I might sound a little bit stupid, but I consider myself a Peter Pan. Well, I try to stay this Peter Pan. It is a way to protect myself and my creative space and to well, do what I want to do. I will just add something. Coming from the Balkans, where the film industry, it's really not, it's not a commercial enterprise. It's not, no, well, the film art is not an industry. That's what I wanted to say. I think in a way, after listening to you, in a way, perhaps with all the other problems, maybe in a way, I do have certain level of freedom that maybe in other parts of the world, it's diminishing. So I guess being non-commercial also, unfortunately, means freedom. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Teona. It's great. So I will, a lot of things we could talk about, but maybe people will come back. I think it's kind of nice to leave your spaces undisturbed by too much discussion, because I think you shared a lot of unique perspective that also felt very familiar and very much like the same, even though it was very individual. So I would like to move on to the next part of the panel, which is I've asked each of the panel participants to think a bit and prepare to speak a bit about how they look at the future. So when I listened to Liv's speech, I was really reminded, I really sat there, and it might just be me, but I sat there with some sense of loss, because there's some sense that, she talks about, film art in this very pure way that I'm not sure any of us can afford in the future. I think we're entering a phase of filmmaking which is more complicated than, what did she say? She said, Fellini, he said he came to Earth to describe this for other people. It's a very simple, godlike position that I'm not sure, if I do my next film and say, well, I'm here to describe what I see to other people, that people will say, okay, go right ahead. But at the same time, I do believe in this, what Liv also talked about, this storyteller principle of, that she referred to Kieslowski, I think, and he says, that we're here to describe, because we can't live in an undescribed world. We need for the world to be told. as human beings, you know, and I do believe in the purity of that, you know. So anyway, I could talk for a while about live, but let me pass the word on to you. So what I've asked the panelists to talk about is two things about this future, which is a little more compromised than what Liv maybe talked about. And one is, you know, what is ahead of us, you know, what are the possibilities of the future that we're going to operate in as directors, and what are the challenges, you know, what may be lost or what do we need to preserve? And it's, you know, you each come from different perspectives, so I also expect this to be quite different, but hopefully enlightening. And yes, so let's, Isabel, would you like to start off again? You need to be unmuted.
I have to say I thought a lot about what you asked me the other day, you know, that question, or how I see the future. It's very difficult to see the future now, because, you know, there are things happening at short term who are like, you know, to be very, very specific, no? Next month, you know, I did a film and it's gonna open next month. The question I was having today, the discussion I was having today is it worth it to put it in a movie theaters in Spain next month? We wait until next year. The movie theaters in some parts of Spain are closed. What is better for the film? And I said, I have to say, I said to the production company, who was El Deseo, the production company of Pedro Almodóvar, I said, you know what, you choose. I really don't know. I'm like surrounded by a fog. I don't know if it's better. Let's do it now. At the same time, I think, what if in next year is even worse, no? When you wake up and the first thing you see in the morning, you know, there are a chain, you know, that's important, that Cineworld, these British chains of cinemas are closing, and you ask yourself, so I did a film, this is a feature film. What's going to be the future of this feature film? I was so worried this morning, so I really don't know what to say. I see we, you know, what, you know, this activism, she was talking about, it's something I don't know how to handle it right now. I don't know if, okay, they were talking also in this meeting I had today, like, so what if we go to a, you know, like one of those pay-per-view things, and we do it in television too, and all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe because, you know, when I work for Netflix, it's okay, it's something I know it's gonna happen in a little screen, or HBO. This time, I thought, you know, this is a film. It has to be seen in a movie theater, at least for a while, to give it like the right dimension. So I guess I'm too worried right now to answer properly what you asked me. I see, I've seen also things, and maybe, I don't know if it is the moment of the panel to talk about, but I've seen things lately in terms of the role of a director who are really worrying me. There is this, you know, there is a project right now, it's very on TV, on a chain in Spain. It's a, you know, it's a thing, I think it's being very popular, but the directors, there are two directors who did this thing, they are not even credited. I mean, they are credited in the credits, but nobody is giving them like the credit to do the film. The series, the only thing people are talking about is the creator or the showrunner or whatever you call it. And I think this figure of the showrunner is really, maybe I'm sorry. I think I'm being very negative today. But there are things worrying me a lot, no? Like the algorithm, no? This famous algorithm when you go to Netflix or HBO or even, you know, like other platforms who are more curated and interesting stuff. It's I think this is something I'm strongly against. I think is preventing people from discover things who maybe, you know, okay, it's not the usual things they will watch, but it could be interesting discover, you know, Macedonian film from the 70s or something you never know you like because you didn't know even exist. But right now, I think I'm very pessimistic. Yeah, I cannot. I'm sorry. I was trying to be positive, and you know, I'd have a list of, but I have a list of horrible things. Brigitte, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, that's really okay because I know James really would like to speak about the positive sides. So, well, we'll put him on right after you, and then he'll do all the positives. So
but Isabel, look, I mean, I understand that pain and I know a lot of it. And obviously my position is slightly different in that my experience and work is uniquely television, and I'm not having to look for a big screen distribution. But nothing you've said doesn't chime with me. And I, like you, I'm going to try and park COVID for the moment, at least for the next 12 months or whatever we have of production problems and distribution challenges, because I think there's an opportunity to talk about it. And I'm going to be controversial and I'm going to be more upbeat than many of you are. And anger, I feel quite angrily that we should be. But look, we have to talk a bit about where we are and the role of the director. I think that's useful. I've written all these notes, and Birgitte, you may have to bring me back on point because I've just thrown them aside and this is going to become a bit more organic. Look, in the last few years, I've worked for major American networks. I have worked doing single films. I have worked as an episodic director under a showrunner, and I have worked as a producing director. And I'm not sure if that's even a concept that's known about widely, but I think it's something we should talk about. Now, my first bit of positivism is, although I don't come from a European feature film background, the British tradition is that a television director will be there at the beginning and they will be there at the last mixing of the last beat of the closing music. And whether it was making a 5-minute film at the BBC or a 90-minute film for Netflix, that's what you've done. So you are the author, you understand it like a mini movie or a TV movie. When European directors, and some of you have this experience, turn up for even a television network in the States, and you offer that amount of interest and passion and forensic attention to detail, they're blown away. Because an awful lot of the American tradition is to hire somebody in, collect some shots, collect some performances, give them 2 days in the cutting room and go home. And obviously the network is partly to blame, but a lot of American directors have got used to that. And I think European directors have a huge amount to be proud of and to make part of our selling point that we can bring ourselves as total filmmakers to all platforms. And we shouldn't forget that. Now, I can talk about negative experiences where I've gone in and the showrunner, who was also the writer and the director, gave a leading Hollywood director, who I won't name, 20 days to do the opening episode, and we got 8 days. Where he came on a tech recce, asked me where the wide shot was from, and he told me, no, it's going to be from over there. And the height of the lens was prescribed, and we had barely 2 days in the edit remotely. And how can you direct or tell your story? Of course you can't. I've worked alongside showrunners who go, look, I don't know about the on-set stuff. That's why you're here. Be my right-hand showrunner, work alongside me. And you get a level of trust that can be fantastic. And if the collaboration works well with the individual, this is why I wouldn't condemn showrunning per se, but I think, and this is something I'll come back to at the end, I think it is the role of the director on the individual occasion, show by show, and on a bigger occasion, we talked about recognition for the director. I think we have a duty, DUK, FERA, whoever, to assert the role of a director, to get that credit recognized, to make sure that people understand we have perhaps been partly the authors of our own disappearance. We talk about our magic and what we do. We operate as lone guns. We are very rarely a team. And I still get asked the question more than anything else, what is the difference between a director and a producer? People don't understand. I think we have a job to advertise ourselves better. I have been recently lead director on a big series for TNT and Netflix. That was a really satisfying authorial role. I was involved in the script. I built the sets and the cast from the ground up. On that occasion, the writer showrunner was happier to be in LA than in Vancouver. That suited us both best. There was trust. I had plenty of sellotape time because there was no one in my face. You know, we were able to build something. I guess as a lead director, I was given the resources and the time. Let me touch on producing director. Can I just ask if any of you on the panel know about the producing director role in any detail? Yeah. So maybe one of you, two of you. This is a relatively new concept. And I want to say that I think it's a sign of a positive recognition that they need us. It's hiring usually the lead director, and this was my case. I directed episodes 1, 9, and 10 of a series. I was there also with the status of executive producer. I was there for the duration of the production. I was involved in hiring the other directors, negotiating with the other directors about what our shooting style was, leaving them some room to be authors, but also trying to maintain a series style. That's a difficult thing to do. But it was what the network and the producers wanted. They wanted another director being, another director brain on the production as an author. And they're recognizing that the showrunner can't do it all, doesn't understand it all, doesn't have all those skills. And I think that recognition is something we should be aware of and should look to trade upon. Now you see, I've just lost my thought. What was the next thing I was going to say? What stories? What COVID has done positively is turned people to their small screens. Admittedly, they're small screens, Isabel, but there is a hunger for story. Now, I felt there was a huge change in international television consumption when Dothraki became recognized as a language. Now, for those of you who didn't watch Game of Thrones, Dothraki is a fictional mythic language that goes through all 8 seasons and is used by one entire storyline and is subtitled. It's like having a huge hit series where nobody speaks anything but Klingon or some other alien language. There was huge fear that people would turn off. And instead, people bought into this other language. And now we see more and more subtitled pieces. And we see Parasite win the Oscar. It's an obvious example, but one we should talk about. I am seeing shows on Netflix that might be in Yiddish or they might be in Spanish. There is a much broader willingness to hear stories of universal scope from corners of the world. And I have one particular project that is just getting traction, which I couldn't get off the ground in the UK for various reasons. Partly it's too political and it's going to make a lot of people angry. Secondly, it needs a big budget. Thirdly, it didn't fit in a single movie format. It runs over 30 years. It needs a miniseries. Now, before the streamers, there wasn't really a home for it. Now there is, and there's the budget, and it happens to hit a genre moment. So I think as storytellers, and my God, everything Liv said strikes me in the core and the soul, we have that responsibility. I really want to argue that I think we have that opportunity. Yes, it needs to be commercial. Yes, we probably have to present our projects in a different way. And sure, there are going to be moments where we can't make it the way we want to make it. But I think there is a growing willingness. If we see this, everything's changing, we're going to lose some stuff. And we can sit here and mourn it and hurt for it, and I do, for some of the freedoms I had before. Or we can say, okay, there's an opening for things changing. Revolution is a time for somebody to stand on the top of the barricade and say, I can see a new horizon. I want to stand on that horizon. I want to make it mine. And I really think there's an opportunity for us and a duty for us to say what these sorts of projects could be, to explain the role of the director, to get involved with the networks about how the relationship with the showrunner should be, to have conversations with the DGA and the European directing guilds much more actively about, so we don't become in Europe a cheap production house for American networks. There are ways to do that. And also, yes, one warning, there are some UK productions that are starting to go, hey, we like this American model, maybe we can use the directors for as little as possible time. But I do think we've come away. There's a point when, which Bill will remember as well, where there was a head of drama at the BBC who was quoted in the national press as saying, directors fuck up a good script. They're only really good for collecting cameras, okay, shots, camera pushers, he called them, in print. And we were for a decade and a half parked, marginalized by one or two of the heads of the big networks here. That has changed. Shows do not get greenlit here until an approved director with a vision has pitched to a network very often. Not everything, but high-end TV, that is certainly the case. So begrudgingly, they sort of understand they need us. I think we have a responsibility to keep explaining, and not to be too defeated, Isabel, though I understand completely your pain. I don't want to diminish that for a moment, but to say, okay, we take the ground. This is what the future could be like. I'll shut up now.
Thank you so much, James. Are you in a better mood now, Isabel?
I don't know. I'll try and calm down.
No, it didn't help. She's muted. I would like to, actually, Teona, I'm going to go to you now, if that's okay, just to break the pattern here a little bit.
Yes, well, I will react to James. I mean, it is very beautiful what you're saying, you know, this opportunity, opening doors to diversity. So I just can't wait for these doors to be open to my part of the world. Because, you know, I'm not only able, I'm very much eager and willing to you know, enter into, you know, to do a film series, because you must know, yes, there is this possibly positive change, but I think it must include the rest of the world. And I hope this will come. What I wanted to say, because of where I come, I never had any experience, although I did go to school. I went to NYU grad, so I went to American school, but I never had, I was never familiar with the system of showrunner and technical director. Last summer, in my production company, Sisters and Brother Mitevska, that we have with my sister, we actually hosted a Netflix show, Into the Night. It's a Belgium series. And it was incredible experience because, yes, we watched how the system works. So basically, there was a showrunner and there were two directors, which were only collectors. It was very shocking because, yes, I was very excited at watching how things are happening, the efficiency, etc., etc. But putting myself, I tried to imagine, to project myself in that position. I said, if I would have to do this, I would die. I have to stay. I have to stay a creator and not a collector. So this is something that, yeah, we must fight for. And as you say, James, I think if I believe your word, and I do believe your word, it is something that the industry has understood. What else I wanted to say is that, you know, art, cinema is, you know, this intellectual stimulation. It is intellectual stimulation of the spirit will always stay around. And I think sometimes when we talk about and think about the future, we are very much concerned about holding our position. And I think a certain level of openness is needed. We must adapt and do the best we can, you know. So I don't know how. I'm not of a practical nature, but the idea is to, yeah, continue telling stories the best way we can, and to have this space in television, in new forms of cinema, etc., etc. The COVID crisis, I spent it in Macedonia, in a house with my family. I'm actually preparing a film. I'm in a pre-production of a film that I'm supposed to shoot, well, in few months. But it is very difficult since I'm shooting in the Balkans and I live in Belgium. So the quarantine times, the prices of tickets have skyrocketed. So it has become really a real défi, a struggle to actually, yes, to set up this project, which doesn't mean that we will not, but it is not evident as it was before, because my fear is that what is happening now will open doors to closing borders and not opening them. And I hope after we get out of this crisis, borders will open again, because this is really, wow, it is difficult the need to freely move. It is also essential as it is the need to really express. But this being said, I will share with you a positive experience from this crisis, is that I'm a filmmaker, so I make a film with, I don't know, 30, 50 people on set. And then I had to do something. So yes, I wrote, but then I said, okay, I will shoot. And I made a film. And it is 1.5 hours. And it's a film that I did with my camera. And maybe it's a récit, maybe it is a reflection. But actually, it does have the form of film. And what I learned from it is that this crisis, I don't know, enforce this idea of need to adapt. You know, if tomorrow I don't have the means to make the films as I have made them until now, I will adapt, and I will continue being a story maker, storyteller differently. I will persist. So that's it, sorry.
Thank you so much, Teona. That was beautiful. And Renaud, the word for you.
Yes, thank you. I would like to start this one with some kind of a optimistic reflection. Even here in France, during all this confinement period, is that while the platform also, of course, increased their audience, and also is that after the confinement, so there's many people who were watching networks who had no clue about platforms, who kind of started to watch movie series on platforms. So the result of that is that right now, as we can see the results of the program, in fact, the very low quality programs of the networks don't work anymore. So it means that people have been used to a better quality, and so that's one of the positive result of what happened, you know, because my story is that I didn't have TV when I was, I discovered TV, in fact, in England, where I was trying to learn English in a very modest family, where I discovered TV, and I thought, wow, because I was watching programs on BBC and maybe MV to become a TV director, and after I was listening to on movie movie features, on feature films, sorry, with the movie with feature film directors, I decided to become director, but for TV, because I had this idea that the TV could be increased, the quality of the TV could be increased in France, and that was a big fight, in fact, because at the beginning it was complicated to, when you were trying to do quality, people wouldn't understand why, you know, in fact, the networks, they would say, well, why do you want to do that? Because, you know, people can, if it works, if you do something with lower quality. So I think what's happening now is, for me, important and quite good in a way. That's maybe the only good thing about what's happening now. What I want to talk about, yes, about the role of the director in the industry now. Of course, yes, it's very common to say that our role has been diminishing through the years, and I can tell, you know, with Netflix, with platform, with networks, that yes, on some kind of situation where what people expected from us is just to be somebody who's doing the work, doing the job, and nothing else. So what can be the future for me in this situation? So either I become showrunner and writer, which I'm doing on the series that I'm developing right now with a platform, but I'm a director. What I prefer to do is to direct, and I like to, for me, writing is very painful. So yes, I want to continue working on projects. So what can be the solution for me is the exit for me. And what I can talk is about my experience, my recent experience. So there was this show on Netflix at the beginning, you know, my part was very defined as a director, and but the fact that I created the complicity with the showrunner, with the writers, you know, that's some kind of, it was a happy wedding, you know, unexpected but very happy wedding with the creators, made that, in fact, I was really involved in all the process of the casting, of the locations, and in fact of their direction. So and on the series I'm just about to finish now, it's exactly the same thing, you know. At the beginning they were like looking, well, they wanted me for a reason, but you know, we had never worked together. But the fact we get along, and the writers, the showrunners, like the Russians, made that we created some kind of a complicity, and that is very efficient, because for the next season, if I'm okay to do the next season, that will be very different, and I'm going to have from the beginning more responsibility and more, because they trust that, they trust me, you know. I have to say, I don't know if it's specific to France, but I think what the situation is now is also consequences of what the situation was when I was assistant, which means the director was, for example, in Cannes, you always have the name of the director, but the scriptwriter, you never knew who he was, you know. So now I think time has come for the revenge of the writers. And I can understand in a way, because for many times they've been not considered as they should have been, you know. So, so rather, and in France, I have to say there's a big fight. There's a very recurrent big fight between scriptwriters and directors. And one of the only thing I'm focused on my action on unions is to try to put them together, you know, again, to make peace with writers, because I mean, there's no reason we're gonna work in frustration, in domination, in the power games, in blackmailing, because sometimes I have seen situations where the director says, okay, to the writer, if you don't let me do what I want, I'm gonna ask this actor not to do the series because the actor. So I think all that is so much unproductive, I think. So for me, one of the most important solutions is to make peace with the writers, and to have everybody being loyal in this collaboration. Of course, it's very complicated to set rules, because now the rules are really that the showrunners have the power. I've been offered also to be a kind of producer director. It's kind of happening too here, you know, the idea of a director who has. So it means, yes, it means that something is progressing on this way, you know. I really believe in that, and in that kind of reunification between us, you know. And what can be lost? Many things can be lost. The thing that will never be lost and that they will always need from us is our creativity, because they can want to have the power on everything. They will always need something creative to make the project a little bit better than what it would be if they were taking care of that, you know. So I think we really have to, and even though sometimes in some situation I'm not imposing my creativity on a regular way, there's always a way which is more complicated to find creative, you know, because it can be also with actors, and yeah, so for me what can be lost is many things but not creativity. And yes, regarding COVID, I've been shooting during COVID. We started to shoot again just after the confinement, and I have to say everybody was making a big deal about all that. So I think I proposed to take rational options, which is like to confine actors. And I have to say, everybody has been very responsible in this situation, or the crew, or the actors were confined in an apartment, but everybody was very responsible, and nobody was sick. And we did the show completely normally. We had love scenes, we had sex scenes, we did everything like normally. And yes, in another way, it's a matter of trust. And I think, yes, and the last thing I want to say is, maybe rather than writing and doing, because that's what they want sometimes, laws, rules, and things like this, I think the best is when the weddings are love weddings, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do as much as I can, you know. But the hate, I don't know if it exists, the hate weddings produce a terrible situation. And yes, maybe there should be somebody, they should hire somebody to hire the good person with the good one, you know, the good director with the good showrunner. And maybe people should, yes, maybe have the chance to know each other better because they start to work together. But when it works, I mean, can be all the situation of the present situation can be kind of not avoided, but be more sweet. Voila, that's all I have, friends.
Thank you, Renaud. I just, before I sort of open it up, and Lenuta, I think it'd be good if you unmute everybody on the panel at this point so that people can speak freely if they want to interrupt or interject something. So either unmute yourself or Lenuta, please unmute them. I just want to sum up a couple of things that I've heard, because I think I can bring, maybe jump the discussion a little forward. So I had written some questions. One question for you, which you've already answered, I think, is, do you experience that you have the mandate or the power that matches your artistic responsibility as a director? And the answer is no, based on what you said. So we can skip that question. Then the other question I had for you is the mandate or the power of the director clear enough? When I listen to all of you, I have to say no, it's not. So let's skip
project by project, not always.
Not always, right? It's not clear enough that I'm not getting a unified sense that that's completely clarified. So I think I can conclude on behalf of all of you, and you can disrupt me if you disagree, because now you're unmuted, so we're all free to speak. But you know, I think the sort of the God-given right that Liv Ullmann described for us is severely challenged. I think we can conclude that, right? We're no longer, you know, put on earth to describe the lives of other people in order for them to understand it better. That is being challenged quite a bit, is what I'm hearing when you speak. So I think, and also, you know, listening to you, Teona, you know, I think you know, the sort of European cultural diversity is being severely challenged. You know, there are some areas where, you know, we can get right into the game of what's going on globally, and some areas where we cannot. You know, the option is not really there. So it's not up to our own industriousness to say, well, I can be very imaginative in this setup. It's simply not available, you know. So so I think that's also something to discuss. And then Renaud, you said, you know, there's, you know, we can probably, not all of you said it, but I recognize it. And I think others in my guild recognize this, you know, the revenge of the writer. You know, it's, you know, the person who never was allowed to speak all of a sudden speaks, and therefore just does not want to be interrupted, is definitely something that can be felt in a lot of work. And then I think another thing that I'm hearing is this sort of the question of the European, you know, I mean, what did Liv Sells? She said, you know, the privilege to speak, you know, and to be European, but at the same time, there's sort of a lack of inclusivity. And I think that's something that, you know, as Europeans, we must talk about. And so I think, to get kind of concrete, I'm trying to jump us into a more concrete discussion, because I think we, you know, out of, you know, we're in this sort of gray zone of being artistic directors who have something that, you know, some sense of wanting to tell stories. And we are, you know, we have a barrier of being one-man bands up against bigger and bigger systems. And how do we get out of this sort of artistic gray zone, you know, which we have to live in, that, you know, our like I think Renaud, you said, or yeah, I think you said the one thing we can't lose and nobody can take away from us is our creativity. So it's a strength that we have, but it's also something that leaves us a little bit in a gray zone. So how can we become, you know, instrumental part of the change in the future, you know, and how can we influence each other? I think that's worth talking about. And I think the first question that's sort of very concrete, which is, so James, you have presented this idea of the producing director, you know, and I know, Teona, you are a producing director because you have your production company, you with your sister produce your own films.
I am, okay.
Yeah, so if the two of you could talk, because I think what I would like for you also to reflect on a bit is, because I think one thing is, you know, if you work with let's say with a streaming platform and you become an executive producer, of course you can enter the room where the executive decisions, you know, on par, you can't get kicked out, right? They have to keep you in the playground. But of course, once you're in that room of executive decisions, you are also in the role of an executive producer. So there's a dilemma there for a director. So if both of you could talk about that, the producing director, and maybe, do you want to go first, James?
Okay, well, I think we're talking about different producer directors. So there is, I mean, what I'm talking about is you're hired essentially as a director to a project that you didn't necessarily originate, and you are there to oversee a lot of the visualization of the project and to manage its realization from page to screen. They recognize that the director has visual skills, how to choose the costumes, how to manage the art department, how often to negotiate the script with the actors, and they want you there as a creating, managing executive. You are very much in the room. You are very included. I would say that this is something of as you rightly say, Birgitte, it is a double-edged sword. It is a Jekyll and Hyde kind of existence, because on the one hand, you want to support all the creatives. On the other hand, suddenly you become the executive and you need to talk about the budget and the schedule, and you're having to talk to other directors and manage them down in a way that would be anathema to you as the creative. So it is asking you to have a schizophrenic personality. The other thing is, it is utterly exhausting. I mean, on a practical level, my average day was 17.5 hours, and it was 7 days a week for nearly 8 months. It is a life-shortening experience. So I think it has to be thought of in a different way, partly because productions recognize what the director can bring. They put a lot on your shoulders. Different to what I think Teona is thinking of in terms of producer-director.
Yes, it's different. You know, I'm not really. We have a production company. My sister is the producer, and but the reason, I will go a little bit in the past. The reason why we made our production company, it was really, we did not have another choice. I basically when I finished film school, I returned to Macedonia, and I was taken for a fool. You know, like, what do you want? You know, like, you are a woman, you are a girl, you. So it was very difficult in that environment, very macho, you know, macho world, Balkan, 20 years ago, 18 years ago. So it was very difficult for us to be taken seriously. So we discovered that the only way we can survive in this kind of environment is if we are two, you know, and now 3 with our brother. So it was really, we created a production company so we can, yes, make the films. At that moment, just make the films. And later, it became something about protecting, yes, our creative space, having control of what is put out there. What I can say, because you, James, talk about Jekyll and Hyde and having this double, yes, now we produce we co-produce other filmmakers. As a co-producer is something else. You don't have so much control. You just hope to land a good project that it's interesting for the world to see. But what I have learned from having my production company is I actually have become very efficient. I know how to manage my time. Actually, I'm a director that I always finish 4 days or a week before. I prepare so much that I'm actually very, very efficient in the way I shoot and the way I really manage my time. I'm not, yes. But I guess this also comes from knowing that actually it is yourself on the line, and the film needs to be finished, and the budget is certain amount that you have to fit into this. So I hope I have answered your question. I'm not, I can only speak from my experience.
You have. Isabel, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm another kind of producer director. I will try to be brief. 7 years ago, they offered me to direct 2 episodes of Homeland. It was a series. I wasn't crazy about it, but I thought, maybe this is a good experience. These actors are very good. The scripts are good. Okay, the first meeting, I realized I was going to be miserable doing it. I mean, every little thing I was, thinking about improving things, even, little things about Kevin Spacey wardrobe, where but there were all these executives that were looking at like I was crazy. So I left that room and I said to my agent, listen, that was a good idea, but I will die if I do that. That's why when I work for HBO, I realized the only way to really, manage what I wanted was writing the 8 episodes, shooting the 8 episodes, and we shoot in Japan, France, Rome, and Spain, and producing them. So my company produced them, and I have to say, for me, that wasn't a Jekyll and Hyde situation. I was completely, Jekyll and Hyde, they were in the same mind, and it was a great, great, great experience. And I was able to take decisions like, okay, we're gonna buy, you know, the rights of 10 songs I love, and we're gonna use them in, you know, in all the episodes. And I had to finally, if I want to spend money, I would spend money, the money budget in things who really matters for me. And I have to say, one of the things, I know probably the rest of you will not agree with me. One of the things I say when I go to a film school to do some masterclass or something to, you know, future film directors is learn to write, because that will give you a lot of freedom. You will not have to, you will skip one part of the process. And I think it's a good advice, at least for me. When someone many years ago, Robert Ullmann, told me that, I was like, at the beginning, I didn't really understood, but then when I started making films, I did. So for me, okay, it's a lot of work. Okay, 17 hours a day. Yeah, but you know, people working in mines, they work a lot too, and it's not as rewarding.
So Bill, I'm looking at the clock, and it's we have half an hour left, and I think all the attendees should be allowed to ask questions of our panelists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me, Renaud talked about there should be the marriage of hate, and that there should be someone who could, you know, put together a writer and a director. And that used to be the producer, the creative triangle of the writer, producer, director. And I wonder whether part of the problem about people not understanding what we do as directors is part of a slightly wider problem of a lot of people in power not understanding what goes on set at all. And the old-fashioned producer was somebody who was jackal to your hide, or hide to your jackal, who understood about money but knew also about creativity. And then, you know, Isabel enjoyed the 17.5 hours, but maybe James, what you were feeling was that you were doing two distinct jobs with two distinct responsibilities.
Yes, I think that's, yeah, that is absolutely the thing. I wasn't even in service just of my own project or my own episode at that point. I think you're completely right, Bill. And some of the most satisfying creative experiences I've had as a director were working on extremely low budget films for the BBC, when that creative triangle of the director, the producer, the writer knew together what the vision was. It goes back to the friction and the arguments I talked about earlier. You're all in service of one end, one project, and you can work together, having the debates, having the necessary tension. And my theory is that partly as the executives got promoted, they don't so much like the producers having a creative role, that creative producers have been marginalized. They tend to be replaced by line producers. And it all goes back, certainly in the UK, I can't speak for other experiences, to a centralization of creative control, where certain individuals in networks and things wanted their direct line to the writers with as little interference in between as possible.
So I think the UK quote I remember was that the director was the curse between the commission and the BAFTA, between the script and the award, was this idiot who got in the way, screwed things up.
Well, that cheered me up.
Okay. Christina Rosendahl also had a question sort of directed towards Isabel, and she said, could you tell us why it is you feel you're losing hope?
What?
She said that you felt that the future for directors looks bleak, and why your hope is why your pessimism is triumphing at the moment.
No, because I think my bleak vision now, it's a product of the coronavirus thing, and the no end. I mean, I don't see an end of this. I mean, people are talking about yes, no, in a year. I mean, 1 week ago, people were talking about what's going to happen in 6 months.
James, there's also been a question as to, even though it is a life-shortening 17.5 hour a day, 7-day a week.
I'm embarrassed by that now. Yeah.
No, I think it's absolutely true. And if it's not pure bliss all the time, it probably is a bit life-shortening. But how can more directors become producing directors?
Well, I think it's a broader question that I was going to raise anyway, or broader answer. And you've heard me speak in the past about directors as entrepreneurs. I think we are, in a way. Isabel, Teona, Renaud, you've been an entrepreneur who, each film is a business, and you launch that business and you manage it and you bring together the team and then you go to sell that business. I think our careers demand that we are partly an entrepreneur. It's not enough to be an esoteric creative these days. I fear that's gone. You have to market yourself, you have to compete, and you have to be a manager. In the same way that we learn to manage a set, we have to manage ourselves and market ourselves in some way. So I think part of the answer is showing yourself as a capable production person who knows how to champion that individual episode or those projects. And that's where you start to get looked at as a producing director. It's considered, I'm embarrassed, a very senior role. It can't be that senior, they let me go play. But I guess that's the answer. Get established with a couple of standout episodes, have a reputation as being an efficient manager of production, and then you'll get considered. Isabel's smiling at me and it's slightly unnerving me now. I'm not sure what I said.
You have to be all these things you said, but also look, it's very important to, you have to not just be, just
you
look.
You have to appear to be
very efficient.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're a woman, like 10 times more efficient. But that's a theme for another panel, I know. Teona, I guess you agree with me.
Totally. Looking is very important. I often say, when I make, in my 2 first films, I had to look like a truck driver in order to be taken seriously. So, yes, but another panel, yes.
That's one thing that I would be really curious to hear all of you speak about. And how do you experience, you know, that is, how do you experience your influence on your ability to sort of have your personal artistic imprint on the films and TV series that you direct? You know, like, do you feel like you're there 50%, 90%, 100%? You know, like how if you each could speak a bit about how do you feel compromised in terms of making that imprint? Isabel, you can go first.
I have to say I wait until what I was doing for a platform for you know, for HBO in this case was really something personal for me, and something, it was me. And I ended doing you know, the series I did is like a theme park of all my obsessions. Like, more personal you die, but you have to fight for that. I mean, before, I mean, I tried to do this thing forever, and until I was sure it was going to be the way I wanted and I dreamed it, I didn't do it. And also I had experiences to go into other places to explain this, you know, my project, and everybody was looking at me like, you know, I was crazy. Like, okay, you're gonna do a TV series talking about Marguerite Duras or Hiroshima Mon Amour or, you know, or Buñuel films, but, you know, it's stubbornness, I guess. And it's being, you know, really, we talk about trust before. You have to trust yourself. Not yourself. I don't trust myself. I trust what I want to do more than I trust myself.
I wanna go out for dinner with you. That's all I have to say. After seeing the series. And Renaud, maybe you could speak next.
Can you repeat your question, please?
My question was, you know, because I think, yeah, I think it'd be interesting, you know, to just hear you all talk about how you experience your, you know, sort of your ability to get your personal imprint. You know, of course, it especially when, you know, when you're working within the realm of the bigger streamers, or, you know, with a big executive power behind.
Yeah, I think I do have, I think it's very, for me, it's not very difficult, but it doesn't happen in fight, in arguing. It's more like something that it's like what I was trying to say about desire. When my desire is here, you know, to do something, to put a project on a direction. In fact, the desire is contagious, you know, and it's more, rather than with attraction than promotion, that I'm managing my to bring what I can have special on the project, you know. And but yes, I definitely think that if the project I directed had been directed by somebody else, it would have been completely different, you know. And it's more about, because what I'm doing, it's more about recently what I've been doing is more, could be comedy, but it's not, it was dramatic. So it's more about human feelings. And so for me, the way really in fact, what I really want is to, first of all, to believe in the scenes I'm directing, you know. And so my credo is really to put some truth about, yes, like Ullmann said very well, the word in what I'm doing, you know, my vision of observation of the world. So yes, so it's a very this is a very subtle work, you know, and that I'm doing with the actors, with all the crew, with the light, with all that. And yes, I think yes, but I'm not sure all the time. The people you talk about who are on the platforms or notice it, you know. But I don't think it's very important, because I don't want to be noticed. The thing is that I think that the public feels it, you know, and public, and many times people tell me, like on the public, tell me, well, there's something, I feel something very strange, like I feel it's real. So I saw your movie, I was kind of disturbed because I was thinking, like, but you know, it's a movie, it's great because I want to go to bed and not think about it anymore. So, you know, yes, I definitely think there is something, yeah, you hear that. I definitely think there's something you can there's an input you can put on your project, but without staying like kind of not too conflictual, you know. And yeah, because
so you have a secret feeling that you're definitely in there, but you're not 100% sure that it's recognized.
Yes, I am 100%.
I recognize that feeling.
I think the thing is that I absolutely agree with Renaud, and I think that whenever I'm told to stop fussing about something because the audience will never get it, I always reply, they may not get it, but it will get them. And it is not something the algorithm recognizes, but human beings as an audience recognize it. And that's what they come to see, not what the calculation of the last 17 shows averaged will bring them, but actually some form of human connection, to get back to the kind of thing that Liv was speaking about at the beginning of the session.
Mm-hmm. So Teona, you were taking notes. Do you want to add something? Or do you want to answer the question?
I like what Bill said, that get them. So I was actually writing that because it is so important, you know. And you know, like, yes, we all have to do compromises. Not me. No, I'm joking. But yes, ultimately it is about, you know, you create certain sensations and certain experience, and there is experience for the audience, for the viewer, and there are, you know, details are actually the key to it all. And sometimes these money people, producers, do not understand the importance of and why we insist on this, but this is essential. And before that, actually, what I was writing, I was actually inspired by Isabel. I came up with an idea for a series. I never thought about the series, so I just wrote it down. I can't.
She wants to be executive on it, I think.
It is very sad, but I think I have 6 episodes.
So, James, do you want to add something to this question?
How can I beat the fact that Teona just came up with 6 episodes right there? I mean, you know, hey, I'm just thinking of the panelists. The panelists, they saw it here live. Yes, I mean, obviously, what I was thinking is that my experience is a little different in that I go and I make individual projects, which I do think I have authorship on, and I get to do the attention to detail. And then I go in and I'm a bitch for hire, and I do my episodes on some established series, and I have to accept that the landscape will be different, and that I have to go in and do my best for that episode. And as Isabel has acutely pointed out, negotiate some of the details I can change and accept those I can't, which sounds like something I was taught in Sunday school, but yeah, so it's again, schizophrenia. It's the 2 different roles and inhabiting different spaces.
Mm-hmm. Bill, do you have other questions from our?
I don't.
You don't. They're sitting there silently.
But I was just going to jump in and just agree with James. James and I have both done this British iconic show called Doctor Who, and Doctor Who has got a kind of a sort of TARDIS, sonic screwdriver, religious iconography that cannot be touched because that would be to challenge God. But what is really interesting about the show is that because the story travels to different places every episode, every time, when you come in and do an episode, the world of your episode is unknown to the show. I mean, the iconography of the Doctor and the whatever is there. So you have this kind of schizophrenia writ very, very, very clearly, because there are executives who are experts in 30 years of iconography of this show, but know nothing about the world that they find themselves in right now. And you know every bit as much and hopefully more than them. So I mean, I when you go in, I think that one of the things that I wouldn't mind seeing if we could just tease out of people are some of the strategies that you employ to actually, you know, preserve your creative space and push back against, you know, that kind of the pressure of the algorithm or the pressure of the money. You know, real life strategies, moments where you think, I nearly was bulldozed there, but I actually managed to
give your best survival skill to us.
Exactly.
Please. Yeah.
Kalashnikov, access.
Love.
Yeah, but I think you've both said it, isn't it? Those two things side by side, and you go in and you have to try and make people feel included and involved. The moment you set up the barriers, it's the having them in the tent with you rather than outside. And then you have to be tough. You have to draw your lines, and then the axe, the Kalashnikov, and any other weapon you have in your suitcase is also useful.
I have a method. I prepare excessively well. So if you want to change something, it is very, for somebody else who wants to change something, it's too complicated.
They would have an idea, don't worry.
Yeah.
Trust them.
I have one question that maybe we have time for, just as a closing thing maybe. So if you all could have a wish for the future European director, what would it be? You know, like you could have 2 wishes each. Actually, I'll be generous.
There is something you know, being European is a blessing and is a curse. What I want, I mean, if I have to make a wish, is first of all, really expand this idea of Europe, include as many un-European people we can, preserving this, you know, the most idealistic idea of Europe, and, you know, and keep doing our jobs as best as we can.
Thank you. James, what's your wish?
Well, first of all, I mean, again, Isabel has caused me to think slightly differently, I know. But first of all, this may be the last forum I'm on as a European before we finally leave. So as a nearly ex-European,
it's a geographical term we're using. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I'm being a little facetious, but honestly, that this is going to sound a little bit primary school. That directors can be better at helping each other and less competitive. I once tried to set up a production company based around 5 significant directors, and every one of them came to the meetings. And the idea was that we would become the originators of product, and you know, we'd be a production company in our own right, and we'd get funding. In fact, I had funding, and it was one of the executives who came to me and said, "James, you know, getting directors together is like herding cats, and you'll all fall in love with a project somewhere, and you'll be there in the company, and then suddenly you'll lose 2 of your numbers because they want to make the movie in Tahiti or they want to do the series in Iceland, and you'll never be there." And of course, he was right to a huge extent, and I couldn't get us to stick. But one of the reasons we're vulnerable in the way we're talking about it is because we're not good enough at sharing and coming to a consensus outside of these rather gorgeous panels. So that's one. And the other is that we invent some new relationship between the big screen and the small screen. At the moment, it is being dictated by Netflix. We are responding, we are playing catch up. And I speak as a small screen director with big screen ambitions. I think there is a symbiotic relationship to evolve here. People want the event. They want to go out to the big screen. And post-COVID, I mean, the parties are going to be amazing. And we're all going to want to go and rediscover that experience. So I don't have the answer, but it should be somewhere that the new collective of directors is brainstorming.
Thank you. Renaud?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, I think insulation is one of the most. I've been very lonely, you know, during my career, and and in fact, every time I made a move, like in being in a union or being part of FERA, I always took something very positive from that, and it really helped me to be stronger, to be more trustful, to be more open-minded, and to be more maybe myself. So yes, being united, and I know that's something I never understood, the fact that directors can be so competitive, you know. That's really something I don't understand, and so I completely agree with you, you know, because if we accept our differences, that we're all different and we all have something very special to bring to this profession, and we don't have to be competitive, you know. So also to be able to all together grow our specificity, and so be ourselves, and still be ourselves in happiness, rather than becoming angry, or only angry. We have to be angry, but you know, that's really, yes, I think that not frustration, anger doesn't have to be our primary motivation. So yes, staying together and trying to still find some kind of space of creativity, despite what the words become, and all with the new new platform, and with the new deal of this profession. Voila.
Thank you. And Teona, you get the last word here.
No, I was listening. I was thinking about, you know, like there was a time of when directors were gods, you know. So maybe, James, your problem was that you tried to gather 5 gods, you know. And well, you know, the idea of director as a god is the past. Directing, it's a job. It's a creative job. And I think there's still some gods left. But I think all this, what we are talking about cooperation, creative cooperation, exchanges of ideas, everything, it is something that it's more and more present, because yes, it is a job. You know, exchanging our experiences is essential. This being said, my biggest wish is to continue making films if I can, and I hope I will. To add to what Isabel said, because that touches me profoundly, about the beauty. You know, Europe is not a territory; it's an ideal, and the beauty of Europe and European cinema, it is its diversity. And what is more beautiful than that? Look at us today.
Thank you so much, Teona, and thank you to all of you. And Klemen, do you want to close off the panel?
Thank you, Birgitte. Thank you, Bill, for you did a really good job with this insightful, in-depth, thoughtful conversation. I hope that our attendees really enjoyed it as I did. It was really, really good. Thank you for this, all of you. As a conclusion to everybody, I would like to invite you to our next session, which is next week on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. We titled it Doomsday or Rebirth, a rebellious take on European film's future. And we would like to you to join us, and I hope that we will have another fabulous panel as today. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you our panelists for in-depth, insightful, and really personal thoughts that you shared with us. And thank you Birgitte and Bill for hosting this. This was the first session of 40th anniversary FERA General Assembly to
It's 17
2020. And we are past 2 hours, and thank you for today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you
Bye,
all.
guys. Nice to see you. Bye.
Bye.